Missouri, Mr. Cleaver is now recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Madam Secretary, thank you very much again for being here. My story is very similar to my colleague, Steve Lynch. I too grew up in public housing. I know one other member did it on this committee, Greg Meeks, as well. And we were led into the Katrina aftermath by our ranking member. A number of us went down. And it was so sad that we were restricted in trying to address some of the problems. As you know, when Katrina came in, it made no distinguish movement based on where the public housings were located. And so there was mass destruction there. And yet we were faced by the one-on-one replacement that was there when I was mayor. I've been here 18 years, and when I was mayor, we still had the only one-for-one replacement policy. And so I'm a little frustrated when people say, well, why don't you do this and why don't you do that? What is the major inhibitor from doing the things that many of the members legitimately want done?
It is the law. It is congressional direction. People think that we are the impediment most of the time, but indeed we are not. We can only do what we are allowed to do.
And funded to do.
Correct.
And so that's my big concern, is that we're not giving money and then we say, why don't you do what we're not giving you money to do?
Right. I mean, we just, Mr. Cleaver, we talk about public housing. We need, at minimum, $70 billion to bring public housing up to code today. But our $3 billion budget doesn't do it. And so we ask about why it's in the condition it's in. It's in the condition it's in because it is old, it has not been maintained, and we have not provided the resources to bring it up to speed.
I was in Dallas earlier this week, as were you and a number of our colleagues, for the funeral of Eddie Bernice Johnson, who served here 30 years. And so some of us stayed at the Omni Hotel in downtown Dallas, which is 26 minutes from the front door of where I grew up. And I sat there and realized that after all these years, there has never been a rehabilitation of those units. And nobody in here deserves to have to live in a situation like that, especially in the United States. So I'm also very pleased that we have a mayor as HUD secretary. I think that's always a good move, whether it's a Republican or Democratic administration. The other thing is, with an annual appropriations for the Public Housing Capital Fund under $3 billion a year, and a capital backlog in public housing estimated to be $100 billion for necessary repairs and capital improvements. How does HUD address the backlog?
Well, certainly not easy. What we have been doing is trying to identify the properties that are in the worst condition through our inspections and try to give them a little extra, but you can't do it with that kind of resources, not to any large degree, because everybody needs it. So we have been using formulas that we always use, but what happens is that the bigger communities get the bulk of the money, where many of the smaller communities need those resources as well. So we are looking at our formulas, but there is not much we can do to really make a dent with less than $3 billion a year for something that requires today more than $70 billion.
Thank you. The other, I have 1,000 issues, but I think there's a view in the country that when we talk about public housing, we're talking about the huge cities, and we're not. Public housing is all over this country, and 1 in 5 public housing developments are in rural areas. 20% of HUD-assisted households live in rural areas right now. And my time is running out, so I'm not going to be able to get this through. But at some point, I think I already know how you would respond, but thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.